Well, what's good, guys? Charles from Team COG coming at you guys here with my True Draco Demise deck profile that I ended up playing on my versus local series. And yeah, dude, I just want to showcase you guys a profile. I think this deck's pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. It was really nostalgic to play a Masterpiece again, considering like when I played the deck, it was meta and it like fell into my hands like a miracle. It kind of fell in my hands. It was like right after like the cards got hit, and everyone didn't think it was meta, and then like it ended up being one of the best decks next to Pendulum Magician. There's like Spiral format when Spiral was like tier 0, and then it was like Pin Magician, and then True Dracos was like there. But it was still fun nonetheless to play this deck. I do think there's some like, not really changes we can make. Like Konami can just essentially give us back more cards. Probably nothing crazy like Demise. I don't think Demise should ever come back, or anything more than one. But Diagram should definitely come back. That would help the deck tremendously. Maybe a new wave of support, even though I don't know what you would give this deck. I feel like it just has everything. This is not your, like, the difference between what I like to call this is trap control. Like, deck, there's, like, control decks, and there's, like, trap control, or, like, just maybe it's just the term control deck. You're very dependent on drawing your disruptions versus making them. It's more consistent to make them. That's why combo decks do, essentially, like, this deck and, like, a combo deck is, like, the same, two sides of a same coin. Combo decks have consistent 1 and 2 card iterations that they can consistently see to be able to put up boards you can't play against. Whereas like a deck like this, you have to draw into those cards that say you can't play. So again, you get up to the entire statistics and stuff like that. You might draw a handful of monsters that you shouldn't have, but then you can't play. Whereas like in a different, on the other side of the coin, it's a combo deck. If they have that 1 card starter in their hand, that 1 card gets into their whole you can't play, right? 1 card gets you to 4 disruptions, whereas this deck doesn't have anything like that. You have to draw into those disruptions. But the deck does have some inherently good draw power and does have some of the strongest draw cards that it can play. And if you guys like this content, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell, hit that join button, become knighted. It's still a blast to play this deck, even though I think it's not that great. I think maybe you can take it to locals if you're like stuck on like you don't know what to play, you know, whatever. So like you take this deck to locals and you can maybe do okay, but at the base, like it's really dependent on what you draw, and if you're unlucky like I am, you're not going to draw like your good cards. You're going to end up drawing your bad cards. And throughout the entire locals, my hand was full of monsters, never enough traps or spells. And the games I was winning, I was like very fortunate to win. And then finally, in the last game where I needed to see a monster, I drew all my traps. It's just the way it goes. But anyway, let's just start off with the profile. I mean, the namesake of the deck. 1 Masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying King. This boogeyman of a card that's existed in the Fear. This card's still super strong. I think people underestimate this card still to this day. When I played True Draco, I never tried to summon this card turn 1, even though you could really do it, and it was okay to do it because of just how the deck performed back then. But now I think it's more correct to like hold this card as like in your hand, so get Maiden plus a trap, and then you're summoning this card on the opponent's turn, and then when you tribute your True Draco spell or traps, you're able to pop cards, and then this card's able to pop a card too. So you pretty much have an immune card to 2/3 of the card game coming out, solving cards by whatever he tributes, and then this guy's going to be able to banish and pop a card himself. So that's where I think he's most impactful, is that. But sometimes, man, as you guys see like some of my streams lately, one of the games I ended up winning was Masterpiece, hard summon, spell and trap, and activate Domain of the True Monarchs, which I'm not playing in this list. This list is different than the list I have that I've been playing online. But anyway, 1 Masterpiece, not much more can be said. This card is still insane by today's standards. Moving on, we have a triple Dynamite, the True Draco Slayer Fighter. This card's pretty insane. I actually ordered this guy in like Italian, I think. Dynamite Cavalier Drake. I don't even remember, but I ordered him in like some foreign language. But this card's arguably the best one. Most of the time, I'm not gonna lie, I'm just gonna call, for the sake of the video, all the little True Dracos the Disciples, just because that's the entire deck is like, air quotes again, kind of have a lot of themes with like the Christian theology and stuff like that. Masterpiece. I mean, come on, the Master of Peace, the True Draco Slaying King, Dynamite Knight, and then you have Majesty Maiden, which is, come on, that's a pun on Mary Magdalene. Anyway, the Disciples, it's mostly them just out there boxing, man. That's really what it is with your floodgates and stuff. But this guy is pretty insane. He allows you to activate or add a trap from deck, or activate it from deck or add it to hand. And the True Draco traps are really powerful. But he's like the highest attack. He's pretty insane. To the other Disciples, we're rocking 2 Ignis Heat. Same thing as Dynamite, he gets you to your spells, which are your draw cards and your additional tribute summons. And then finally, we're on to the Majesty Maiden. This card, Mary Magdalene, is here. She searches out your other True Draco names, and sometimes like you summon her, she searches out Masterpiece, and that's where you get to conduct that tribute summon during the opponent's turn of tributing Masterpiece using a True Draco trap, and then you can either use Majesty Maiden or another monster you have on field, depending. But most of the time, it's these guys right here. these 7 cards holding down the line. And yeah, so that's it for the True Draco names. I really, if we had more diagram, I'd maybe think about playing the True Draco Phoenix, the True King Maramne, I think is the name. Maramne. I'd think about playing her just because it was a really cool combo back in the day to use diagram to pop her, to search a True Draco card, and then use her to search a worm. And you would search out. It was really like a good +1 that the deck had access to, but with just one diagram, it's not consistent, and that card will be like a brick more often than it's not. But yeah, this is it for the Savior, the Masterpiece, and his disciples. This is it. You could probably cut down some of the names and play like Darius if you wanted to. I just don't think he's necessary anymore. But yep, that's it for Dracos. I mean, clearly, man, it's 8 monsters, 8 True Draco names. So yeah, moving on to the final monster in the deck, YuGiOh. If you guys don't remember, if you guys never played this card is essentially like a Dark Ruler card. You summon it, and then you'd use all your draw cards freely. You can't get hit with, like your monster hand traps. You can still get hit with like Purge and like Purge essentially. That's the only hand trap I can think of that can still hit underneath a YuGiOh. But you normal summon this, do your drawing, and then you can, if you open like any of the Draco spells, you can get additional tribute summon. And a YuGiOh at the end phase bounces back, so you're going to always have that like Dark Ruler-esque card to be able to touch down. So this card is way more powerful when you had like multiple demises and stuff like that. So like you were able to normal this, you set your cards card demise with free, so draw 3 cards for free. But going second, because I know some people believe this deck struggles to go second, and you guys believe correctly. Back in the day, that's what made this deck a super powerhouse, was the fact that it didn't struggle to go second. Sometimes normal YuGiOh, doing some drawing, activating, and then you start using your True Draco spell and traps to start breaking apart boards was super strong. But now, like that's just not enough. That we don't have that kicker as much as we used to. But YuGiOh is still there. It's still a powerful card going first and going second, and I think it just stays on the deck. I'd play 3 of it. I know on my online list I was playing 3, but it's spaces. I want to keep this deck list at 40 to keep it as consistent as you can, because again, you need to draw your disruptions, right? So I didn't want to like over exceed my limit, so like I couldn't draw it. But anyway, onto the spells. We're on to Triple Heritage. This card gives you an additional normal summon and lets you draw cards depending on the cards, the types of cards, the True Draco, True King cards that go to the graveyard. So essentially, at max value, you can draw 3 cards, but at minimum, you can draw 1 or draw 2, which is really nice. Essentially, a +1 or a break even, which is not too bad. Double Disciple of the True Draco Phoenix. I opted to play 2 because of space. Disciple of True Draco Phoenix is your shuffle back 3 draw card. So this card, as long as you always keep 1 in rotation, you're always going to have access to 1. So Disciples will always shuffle back a Disciples, and then when you finally tribute over the 1 Disciples, you can get access to the other one to shuffle back the other one, so you can continually have this resource loop, which is pretty cool. I used to always play 3 and 3, but times have changed. 1 Diagonic Diagram and 1 Terraforming. I guess not much more can be said. This is probably, if Diagonic Diagram could come back to 3, I think this deck would be a lot better. I think this was the biggest hindrance I had when I was playing at locals and in my testing, was without having diagram, having that consistency, you just sometimes are setting on a bunch of traps, which True Draco used to do sometimes, but at the end of the day, you still had more consistent ways to get into diagram. Diagram could get your engine started, whereas now, since we only have 2 copies of diagram, we really can't get into, like, get our ball rolling, essentially is what I'm trying to say. But that's it for pretty much the True Draco spells. Now just on for the draw spells. It's Triple Duality, Double Pot of Desires, and 1 card Demise. So for a little bit, I struggled with playing Pot of Desires because you're playing the deck for the namesake of Masterpiece. So if you banish Masterpiece, what's the point of playing the deck? And then Diagram too. Diagram's a pretty big hindrance, or is a big part of the deck as well. So if you banish them both, like, what's the point? But this deck really needs hand advantage. It really needs that +1. And at the end of the day, most games, you're not playing with Masterpiece and you're not playing with Diagram anyway. So it's just, like I said, it's Disciples control. Like Dynamite, Majesty Maiden, and Ignis are out there holding the line themselves. So at that point, you just need more cards to be able to potentially like stop your opponent from playing. So so it's okay. You do have to. You could play Upstart if you don't want to play Desires. There's definitely more draw cards you could play, but Desires is like the easiest card. I think you're not going to use, and sometimes it's nice because you banish all those useless traps that you were going to draw for turns that aren't going to do anything, and you get to that part of your deck where your monsters, your consistency cards are, and stuff like that. But yeah, that's it. 6 draw cards. I do miss card Demise, but it feels so good resolving this card. This card alone will get you back in the game, at least at locals. Or maybe it wasn't at locals, it was in testing. A card Demise by itself was able to draw 3 cards and get me right back into the game, which is insane. Which is really why this card's at 1, because this card, draw 3 is in, like, draw up to 3 cards, wild. Moving on for the traps. So here is the big chunk of traps right here. You're onto your Triple Apocalypse, arguably the best True Draco trap, and then double True King's Return. So we're just doing this 5 ratio on both spells and traps, and normally, like, my OCD says play 3-3. but I guess like it works, and I have no complaints with it. You just play 3 and 3 because again, disciples will shuffle them back, and you know you start banishing stuff. You have more continuous traps and stuff like that to banish, so like you're not always banishing them, but it's okay because like essentially you shouldn't banish all your true Draco or true King names, just because if the game's going on that long, you're probably gonna lose it. But yep. 5 True King, True Draco traps. Now on to the good stuff. These are the disruptions you need to draw in order to win. The Monarch's Erupt, which is essentially skill drain, but for tribute summons, and that's pretty easy to do sometimes. This card by itself will sometimes just win you a game. Not even lying. Monarch's Erupt will just carry you completely. Lose 1 turn. This is probably the next best continuous, like at 3 continuous Floodgate we can play. It's still insanely good. It literally loses a turn. It gives you a turn to play. I was playing Apothis, the Swamp Deity, and I have a mixed feelings about this card, but it's another continuous trap that allows you to negate multiple cards, and it actually addresses those board breakers such as, not droplets, but those board breakers such as Feather Duster, Featherstorm, Cosmic Cyclones, because this negates cards up to the number of continuous traps you control. So it doesn't negate monsters, it negates cards. So it allows you to have this card just had a lot of utility, I feel like, and that it can negate, you know, Harpy's Feather Duster. Even at the end of the day, if that's all you're using this for, is you flip like lose 1 turn and then they go Harpies and you activate the Swamp DD and negate Harpies, like yeah, that does kind of stink, but you still saved, you're still holding on, right? You still did the thing it's supposed to. But I think that is it for the 3 of Floodgates. Or not even really Floodgates, there's only 6 Floodgates, but this 3 of traps. On to the 1 ofs. I was on to 1 anti-spell breaking, so 1 rivalry. This is a strict 40 card list, at least when I counted it was. And these were like really the strongest ones. I didn't want to play, I know someone was like, you should probably play There Can Be Only One, but I didn't want to play There Can Be Only One because you can't, if you had 3 Diagram, I would say yes, because Diagram can pop these floodgates that do hinder you in some aspects to allow you to get rid of them, to allow you to play around them more. But just having 1 There Can Be Only One, and you have like Dynamite, you cannot tribute summon to, you can't even attempt to summon another worm. You have to get rid of that There Can Be Only One first. It's preventing you from doing that. So without Diagram being at 3, I felt like that, you know, Rivalry was the best one. Anti-Spell Fragrance, again, almost the same terms as Apothis here. You want to have those answers for those floodgate or those board breakers. So just, you know, and even if it's not board breakers, turn 1 flipping this card up, you're almost guaranteed to win. Or at least slow them down. You stop all their consistency, and you just move on from there. The last 3 cards in the deck list was Triple Strike. I don't know how I feel about this card. Paying life points sucks, but like Strike is such a strong card. Maybe like Imperm would be okay, but I like Strike. If I could like see Strike in 1, but I was always seeing 2 strikes, and like that just murdered my life points, and I was just able to get waxed pretty easy because I'm down to 5,000, and in today's modern Yu-Gi-Oh, 5,000 is not a hard number to reach in terms of damage on the field. So that is it here for the deck list. There are like some changes you can make, of course. Like you could change your lineup of traps, you could change your lineup of spells. I think the monster lineup is pretty solid. I think that you have to play a Mono Iwado if you're playing this variant of the deck, because you need your draw cards and your search cards to go through in order to keep up with the game. And if your opponent just throws their hand traps at you, which of course they will 100% throw their Ash Blossoms, their Drolls, everything at you, Amano just checks those. And then again, going second, where this deck really struggles, Amano just shutting off Dark Ruin the whole board. The best thing ever is normal summon Amano, shutting off an SP and then smacking over SP with Amano is just really good. So I think Amano, I think the monsters are for sure. I mean, you could arguably play less of the monsters, but I really worry that if you play any less, you'll never see them. You already don't see, sometimes you already do not see enough monsters in your opening hands. But yeah. Anyway, this has been it for this True Draco Demise deck profile, guys. Like I said, I enjoy this deck. I think it's pretty fun. I do think it's bad. Like, don't get me wrong. I do think it's bad, but it's still fun to be able to summon Masterpiece. Like, it's still just a nostalgic feeling to summon Masterpiece and sometimes get a win or something like that. But anyway, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for future content. Hit that notification bell so when I go live, you guys don't miss. Maybe one of these times I'll go and tank my rating again with True Dracos. But anyway, stay safe. Again, stay healthy. Charles from Team COG signing out.